Hey everyone, welcome to the PFF Betting Podcast. I am your host, Kendall Valenzuela, joined with me, of course, as always, Ben Brown, PFF Senior Data Scientist. And Ben, it's finally here. It is finally here. Super Bowl 56, Cincinnati Bengals, Los Angeles Rams. We have all the player props you need in this podcast for you. So let's get into it. The moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here. In honor of the big game, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in New York, meaning you can bet from almost a third of the country. If Sportsbook is in your state yet, play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56. New customers can get a shot at a $1 million top prize with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code PFF, and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. 21 plus, see DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call the TN Red Line 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY. And we've made it. It was a long 2 weeks. It was brutal.
I mean, it's not brutal. Quite. Is it all the way here though? I feel like
for me, yes, because we have a ton of everyone go follow PFF, Twitter, Instagram, everything. Go follow us. But this is our time where, the guys are doing their player interviews and we're getting all those interviews and things like that. So to us, it's here because the content is flowing. Maybe not for you. It's here on Sunday, but for me, it's
here now in the flesh. No, I agree. I'm excited for it. Obviously, we've been building up to this game for what feels like forever. I mean, obviously, after this, we're not going to have football until April, I guess, with the USFL. I'll take it for what it is. But yeah, it's good and bad, I would say, for sure. So
it's good and bad. But it's nice because I was thinking, before we get into it, I was thinking about this Super Bowl, right? And it's like we've had the string of 5 Super Bowls where it was either Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And that's what we got for the last 5 years. But now we've got Burrow and this fun young Bengals team. And then we have Matthew Stafford and the super team that they created. So to me, I don't know about you, but when I look at the game, obviously we're going to go through our props and, our best bets and who we think is going to win or cover, whatever. But when I look at who could win this game, I'm not mad at either whatever team wins this game. I have a reason for both. We probably have a reason for both. I live in Cincinnati. It's fun watching Joe and this team. And then you have the Rams with Aaron Donald and Whitworth and all those guys. So I feel like I'm not going to be mad at the end of the day unless we lose money.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where we don't have fatigue with either team, right? I do think if you would have seen Kansas City get there again or something, or, Tom Brady get there again, it would have been this idea of I just kind of want to see one of these teams lose actually, right? But we got fresh faces, both got there in, completely opposite ways of team building. So I think that's a really interesting storyline as well. But yeah, you got, a lot of young stars in the NFL that are some of the best at their position, right? I do think that you can make a case for a number of players being, the very best at their position respectively right now in the NFL. And I do think that makes for a really exciting and intriguing Super Bowl matchup, I would say.
Yeah. So do you think that the Rams, though, on paper, when you look at everything, are the stronger team in this matchup?
I definitely think so. Yeah. Okay. I think it's and all basically every category, I would say, outside of talent at all the wide receiver positions. I do think that the Rams probably have the edge. Of course, quarterback, I do think you probably maybe lean in Joe Burrow's direction as well. I do think based on PFF pass grade and those sorts of things, but you can definitely make a case for Matthew Stafford. But outside of that, for Cincinnati, it is pretty heavily one-sided. And I do think that the matchup specifically with the Los Angeles Rams versus Cincinnati matches up really well from the Rams perspective. So that's kind of why I lean in that direction.
Yeah.
So.
The reason I ask is because so Joe Namath did an interview with Sports Illustrated, and I read it before we came on here just to see, because of course you think that they're going to ask his prediction, and he doesn't actually give a prediction. He gives like an anomaly of what he thinks is going to happen. But he did say whoever beats themselves will lose this game. And then he said both teams are obviously good enough to compete against each other, but it's going to be the one that overcomes their errors that they're going to make. So when I thought of that, I immediately thought of the Rams. I'm thinking The Rams they're not as young. And that's the only part in that statement from Namath that I'm like, okay, the Bengals are young and they haven't been here before. And you've got leaders on that Rams team like Von Miller, who wants it bad, and Aaron Donald and Whitworth, who, is a seasoned vet. So that's the only thing that I think of when I look at these two teams that could maybe sway that a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably two ways of reading into that quote. At least I think there are, some turnover things, some wide swings with EPA type plays where, Matthew Stafford has had really poor situations where he hasn't taken care of the football. Cam Akers had 2 fumbles, in the divisional round as well. That didn't cost them the game, but it definitely made it a lot closer than what it should have been, right? So those sorts of things, I mean, the Rams seem like they've kind of done that where they maybe have come really close to beating themselves in certain spots. And maybe you can't make that same case with the Bengals and specifically Joe Burrow, who has been really good from a turnover worthy play percentage, who has been really good from, taking care of the football, but also just like his ability to, understand the situation and the gravity of what he's about to do and actually be comfortable taking a negative type play, either a sack or something else, and not having that be a catastrophic type of outcome that we see with other types of quarterbacks. So I think maybe that's, the other direction to lean, but I definitely agree with you. I think there's a veteran presence specifically in the Super Bowl that should not be understated from the Rams perspective. So
there we go. You got to bring that up. I mean, when Joe Namath says anything, I'm just
Joe
like,
Namath.
Okay.
He guaranteed victory and then he went out and did it. So you got to respect the guy.
You got to respect it. All right. Well, let's get into the spread. We'll get into everything first. Obviously, we have a ton of props for this podcast, but the spread, right? Cincinnati hasn't been able to coast to any of their playoff wins. If I'm remembering correctly, each of their games was decided by one score or less. I think the biggest margin of victory was the Raiders because they won by 8. And the Rams are different, but the Rams are 4.5-point favorites here. So I'm wondering if you're leaning one way or the other, which way it is.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I think it just seems like the Rams have really good matchups in all the key spots in order to really impact the Cincinnati Bengals, especially offensively. And that Bengals offense hasn't probably been as great as what everyone said here in the playoffs, right? We're obviously really good toward the end of the season in that week 17 match against Kansas City, but they haven't played anywhere close to the lights out type of performance that they've had in the playoffs so far. And I think that they're going to probably need that against a Rams defense that I think is, the best unit in the NFL and is capable of taking advantage of them at their weak spots and also probably holding on to, some of their strengths and actually being able to defend those in one-on-one coverage, right? With the Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase match. But I do think that's a spot where that's definitely, if that tilts in the Rams' favor, it's going to be really difficult to see the Cincinnati Bengals cover. So if I was betting anything right now, I know I'm going against green line a little bit, but I would take -3.5 for the Rams on Caesars. I do think that's the best price right now. That's probably where I'm getting involved on the spread, but there's so many other betting opportunities. You don't necessarily have to lock it in with that, right? So
you don't have to. I have to ask. I have to see if you're going to be a company man during this podcast.
That's not this particular for this. Not this one.
It's true. I mean, Cincinnati, to me, when you look at it, has proven that they're young and inexperienced, but they have in the playoffs and things like that. But they have overcome all of that. I mean, you saw that the Kansas City Chiefs had a better roster technically than them on paper, and that's how you look at it. So I feel like they have life to that 4.5.
Right. I mean, that has to be the argument, and that's good. Kind of the narrative that we've definitely seen. And I know we talked about this previously. I don't want to beat a dead horse or anything like that, but it's I would say the Chiefs maybe beat themselves more so than the Bengals went out and actually won that particular game. And I do think that not necessarily the same case in the Tennessee Titans game, but I would have liked to see at least one of these games where the Bengals just kind of put their foot to the gas pedal and actually really performed well offensively like they did in week 17. We just haven't seen it in a while. So I'm less inclined to really buy into that narrative, I guess. But
yeah,
we'll see. We got opposite sides on this. We might have to wager a little friendly bet or something on this particular one.
And it's interesting that you look at it that way, because I look at it like they've overcome obstacles and not, every game's been close because they've been, scratching their way towards it. And to you, you're like, every game's been close, and that's a reason why you should jump with the Rams, because they shouldn't have been. Maybe some of them, not all of them, obviously, when you played the Chiefs and things like that, but some of them should have been like a little bit more of a runaway game for them.
Right.
I like that. Opposite. We're thinking opposite today. It's good.
Okay. It'll
be fun. It'll be fun. All right. Before we get into props, I still just want to go over 48.5 total points listed. Are you bet? I know you don't lean sometimes doing total points and everything like that. 48.5 though, we know the Rams offense is elite and they average 28 points per game. Cincinnati, just in the playoffs, is doing 24 points per game. So this is kind of a really sticky 48.5, no matter what. Yeah.
So I have quite a bit on under 49.5. Like you mentioned, basically it did open at 50, 49.5. I don't mind 48.5 as well. And I do think, once again, it comes down to how many points are the Cincinnati Bengals going to score. And they haven't been overly efficient in the playoffs so far. Aaron Donald is going to be a problem. Like they're going to have to figure out whether they want to run on first downs like they have way more than they probably should, or are they going to actually let Joe Burrow cook? And I do think that if they let Joe Burrow kind of operate heavy passing percentage here, then that's really the only way that the Bengals are going to keep pace and win. And that's the only way that I think the game goes over. But I'm not inclined to really buy into Zach Taylor actually allowing that to happen. So I think under 48.5 is a pretty good spot. I do think we're going to see one of these higher sack type games from Joe Burrow and a lot of stalled out drives. So I like under 48.5. I also like over 6.5 punts, because I do think it could be just a little more of a defensive struggle here for sure. So
it makes sense. I mean, just because of how good that Rams defense, like the defense in front is alone, I think that's a reason to look into it. You're right. Aaron Donald. That's one of my favorite things that we're going to be watching is Aaron Donald. I don't know if you've seen any of his press conferences recently, but he is like locked in.
Is he good?
He's over it. He's
Super Bowl MVP basically.
He is over it. He's like, I've been doing this for 8 years, and he's had so many accomplishments. And in his presser, he was just like, I need a ring. Like I need to be a world champion. I'm done. Like he knows, like, especially with Von Miller, they're probably now just in his ear, like, you want this, you need this. Like that's one of the most exciting things I'm watching for on Sunday.
Right.
Are you betting him MVP?
I mean, plus 2,500 on Caesars is his best price. I might have to sprinkle it.
3,500, yeah, absolutely.
Plus 2,500.
Oh, 2,500.
So, yeah, I know he's like plus 1,600 at DraftKings and those sorts of spots, but plus 2,500. Yeah. I mean, seems to be worth it. I know he's pretty popular now. His numbers been moving a little bit, but yeah, I don't mind a sprinkle. I think the narrative that I see kind of setting up is Rams maybe jumping out to a somewhat early lead. I do think it's going to be pretty choppy here, be definitely on pace to go under. And I do think that's going to be because of Aaron Donald. So if the Rams win and it's, a game that goes under, maybe Matthew Stafford doesn't necessarily have a ton of, offensive production. Cooper Kupp maybe just as, Cooper Kupp-ish and not necessarily like explosive Cooper Kupp-ish. Then that's a path for Aaron Donald to potentially win Super Bowl MVP with, 2 sacks or something like that.
Plus 2,500. Everyone run to do that. I'm going to do that right after this. All right. Well, let's get into it. Everything we've been talking about, we're building up to this. That's props. I'm so excited to hear yours. I know your first one, Samaje.
P. Ryan.
You like his over 5.5. Did you see how I let you say his last name for me?
P. Ryan.
I'm like, I know it's P. Ryan, but I want to make sure. Over 5.5 rushing yards at a plus price, plus 106. That's good. I like that one.
It's good. I mean, he didn't have a carry last week, but he has been pretty involved offensively. He's playing at least 20% of the offensive snaps, involved in heavy passing type situations, but those could be decent to, obviously from an analytics perspective, we don't want to see second and long runs. We don't want to see third and long runs, but we have seen the Bengals do that a little bit with Samaje Perine, especially with Aaron Donald kicking out to the outside in those obvious passing situations. That could be a spot to run up the middle. If it is a little bit of a lighter box, 5.5 rushing yards, that's not too much. So I think on 2 carries, one of those, he gets one of those draw type plays, is easily going to go over this number. And I think that the Bengals might struggle, especially early on offensively. So I think that could be a factor in him actually getting a rushing attempt when maybe he shouldn't be. And I do think that's going to easily lead to him going over. So I like it. I like it a lot.
From now until February 14th, you can get 25% off any PFF subscription if you use code SUPER25. What can you get with a PFF subscription? Well, you can get all of PFF's locked article content, NFL betting dashboards for the playoffs. NFL Greenline is up 27 units this season. You can get the NFL draft guide and more. Support the pod and use promo code SUPER25 for 25% off any subscription.
So
yeah, and you said in your article too, like you're looking at it as like Joe Mixon has a say in this prop as well, because you don't think he's going to be not necessarily bad, but not, I think you said overly effective as much.
Especially on first down, like we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
I mean, that's when Aaron Donald's basically like inside playing, an interior defensive lineman position on those types of snaps. So I think if we see the Bengals maybe try and counter that by again passing on that first down type stuff, they're going to get into third and manageable. That's when we're going to see Samaje Perine maybe get one of the two of those carries as well. So if we see a little bit of downtick on first down rush attempts from the Bengals, I think we're going to see an uptick on second and third down. That's the Perine down that we're looking for. So I think he's going to get at least one chance. And I think if he gets two, this one's easily going over.
And then we'll message each other like we do with my T. Higgins many times. And I'm just like, that
was a shot.
That was the moment.
Shot,
and then it's done because we know it's over. It's like that one shot in the end zone. And I'm like, that was it. That was fun while it lasted. It didn't work, but that's good. You
rarely get to double down on those opportunities. So when it doesn't hit the one time you called for it, it's just pain.
Yeah, no, it's awful. And then I message you. Right. But okay, I have two. You can either parlay this together, but I know we're doing a full big parlay podcast on Saturday. So I'm just kind of putting these two out there, but I like OBJ over 5.5 receptions. I like him over 5.5 receptions. And if you want to get him to score anytime, he's still at like plus 115, plus 120. So I just think that like his involvement in the Rams offense has increased, at least in the playoffs, right? You're smiling like you're just going to absolutely destroy this prop, but I'm just going to tell you 6 passes for 69 yards over the Bucs, 9 catches for 113 against the 49ers. Tell me I'm wrong, but I just feel like OBJ, at least over 5.5 receptions for me, is probably the route that I want to go instead of doing his receiving yards make me a little nervous.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been off
the OBJ
Beckham for this particular spot. I don't know. I think it's overhyped. I think the narrative, obviously he has been productive in the Rams offense, helped him quite a bit, but there's just the target volume that's going in Cooper Kupp's direction and has gone in his direction the whole year makes me somewhat nervous. If like I said, if the Rams end up covering, there's just not going to be enough passing volume to go around. So I think it's Beckham who potentially goes under, but we can disagree. I'll take Kupp. You take Odell Beckham. Loser.
Well, hang on. I'm not fading Kupp here. Hang on. I will never fade Kupp here.
Never fade Kupp.
I'm just saying it's like, it's theater. It's like drama. Like, that they're going to be like, to me, at least in the Super Bowl, it's just like with Tom, not the same, but it's like when you bet Gronk anytime touchdown in the Super Bowl, because they have that connect. Tom and him have that connection, and it's like a fun thing for them. I feel like OBJ, at least with the anytime touchdown score, is like that is going to be the bow wrapped up into what was a crazy season. And to me, that's Sean McVay telling him like, hey, like we screwed you guys. Like you guys totally messed this up with him. He's still good, and we're just going to show you, and he's going to catch that touchdown pass on Super Bowl Sunday.
I agree that I like his anytime touchdown out of all of his other player props. I just think this is such a game where the Rams are leading by like 2 touchdowns, and OBJ has like 3 for 35 and a touchdown through the third quarter and just like doesn't see another target. Is kind of like my projection of the situation. So I can see the anytime touchdown.
Blowout. You think
not necessarily blowout, but yeah, I think like we've seen the Bengals be down pretty big at halftime. I do think that is possible again. And maybe they don't get there. Maybe they don't actually put forth the offensive performance in the second half that kind of brings them back into the game in this particular one. But yeah, I think the Rams are going to be up early, and I'm a little nervous about Cooper Kupp going over 8.5 receptions because of that, but I'm even more nervous of Beckham going over 5.5 for that same game narrative. So
I like it still. I still like it. But like I said, I will never, like, something that you just don't do this season is fade Kupp. And that's the next one is 8.5. You're right. If you're picking between the two, I am of the narrative though that it won't be, at least the Bengals will keep it relatively close. Like it won't be a super breakout. At least I'm hoping that. So that's why I brought up the OBJ one. But 8.5 receptions, like we always say in this podcast, when you've got a good thing going, we're not going to turn it away. And his receptions prop has almost been a lock each time we've brought it up. So again, on Super Bowl Sunday, he is that offense, and he is not, like, they're not going to change that game script anytime.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've wrote it for, I think, the last 7 weeks. He did hit a little bit of a lull there in the midpoint of that betting streak, but it's been hot basically on the bookends. And I think that's going to stick here again in the Super Bowl. So yeah, over 8.5. He can't be touched in the match perspective. He's going to have some manufactured targets underneath. I think it's going to be a Cooper Kupp show here for the Super Bowl, at least in the first half. So I like this one a lot. What
is MVP? Have you looked into his MVP? I don't know.
I have. It's actually pretty. I think he's basically like the lowest non-quarterback. So I think the best price on him plus 700 on Caesars. Once again, he's plus 600 on DraftKings and BetMGM plus 550 on FanDuel. So I don't know. I mean, the thing is, the MVP is fine, but there's like so many ways that you can do probably like same game parlays with a much better payout on a lot of these guys. And that's the way that like the game's absolutely going to have to go in order for them to probably win MVP. So I'm probably leaning more in that direction than actually betting into the MVP market, but to each their own, I guess.
To each their own. All right. Cooper Kupp over 8.5 receptions. We like this one. So we have to talk about, I threw this one in here before we came on, and that's Tyler Boyd. And we've been hitting, I feel like we've hit his under a lot in the last few weeks, right? This one's at 39.5 receiving yards. But the one thing I did want to say is that when Mina Kimes, and this is on her Twitter, scroll through her Twitter, like, we know the Rams defense is good. And she said this, their production drops significantly versus short passes between the numbers. So I'm wondering to you if that, we like Tyler Boyd under 39.5 receiving yards, but like the Rams, they allow the second highest QBR in football when it's inside between the numbers on throws less than 15 yards.
Right.
So, but to me, I still like Tyler Boyd's under 39.5 there because I just don't think he's going to be that guy for them. But that is someone she brought up of like, they could be a Tyler Boyd show out, but whether that means going over 39.5 receiving yards, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like she said, like the Rams have been really susceptible to passes over the middle, right? Intermediate and short throws obviously has been like their one down spot. I think like Timo Risque also wrote an article on it, our colleague, PFF data scientist, about using his heat maps, how they've been way below league average, at least in that particular area. And that's, kind of where Tyler Boyd operates, right? Yeah. If you think Jamar Chase is going to be locked down by Jalen Ramsey, see that type of shadow coverage, then it really is going to be, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, because CJ Uzama, coming back from a sprained MCL, Drew Sample isn't really a guy that's overly productive whatsoever in the passing game. So Tyler Boyd could see, a decent increase in target share. So I don't know. I'm not really inclined to play this particular one. And I do think Mina brings up, a number of good points. I'd probably rather lean towards playing like T. Higgins to go over 5.5 receptions than I would to get involved with like Tyler Boyd going under anything is my angle on it. Cause I do think that Jamar Chase is going to struggle facing off against Jalen Ramsey on a majority of his routes. So well, and if he does that, then it becomes T. Higgins, right? I mean, that's, if he is locked up by Ramsey, which you never know. I mean, that's going to be also like, besides watching Aaron Donald, that's going to be a huge part of it. Like he becomes the key to that passing attack with Joe Burrow, because they're going to have to counter some way. Yeah, he's going to be the guy, right? I mean, that's basically it. That's like, and it's T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd are basically their only counters, right? Given the injury situation. So it's going to need to be T. Higgins. I do think that in order for the Bengals to cover and potentially win, Higgins is going to need to go over 5.5 receptions. He's going to have a monster game. And I do think he's definitely capable of it. He's done it in the past. So it's definitely a possible, outcome if you're simulating this type of matchup, but we'll see what actually happens here. I do think the Rams defense is being, I know it sounds crazy to say like underrated, but they are really, really dominant defense in a lot of areas. And I do think that the Bengals could potentially struggle moving the football. So
you think, because I did notice we didn't have any Jamar Chase on here.
It's
just too, but to you, it's too risky with that matchup with Ramsey to even try and figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah. And Chase stays pretty locked into like one specific receiving position. So it's going to be, Ramsey's going to be sitting out there on an island with him in a lot of spots. And I do think that, 90% of the time Ramsey could potentially win that matchup. Maybe he gets one shot deep like we saw with Mike Evans, but I don't know. I'm inclined to lean in Ramsey's direction. I do think he's going to have a pretty decent game for sure.
Right.
So
I like it. Well, we couldn't do this podcast without everyone knows bringing up a quarterback rushing problem. And I'm kind of, no offense to Joe. We love Joe Burrow. I can't do it anymore. He has not hit that quarterback rushing prop for me. And I was hammering it every week in the playoffs, everything. I think it hit last game. And that
I was going to say, didn't he go over last game basically?
But that was it.
He went over. He hasn't gone over. He went over once in the playoffs, but the 3 games before that, he went over. So he went over in that Chiefs game in week 17, which we did have. I think we liked them both in the playoffs as well. I'm going to call it basically 2-2 right now on our selections with him. He's 9-10 overall on going over his rushing props.
I'm going with Stafford. So. I'm going with Stafford.
Fine.
I don't know.
I mean, it is an inflated number. We actually don't show value on it. So
what?
I'm not
Stafford?
On Joe Burrow. So.
Okay.
So Stafford is the correct spot if you're looking for a quarterback.
5.5 rushing yards. Cincinnati has allowed at least 10 rushing yards to the quarterbacks per game. I think it's like 15, but that's full season. So I don't really, but Matthew Stafford 5.5. That's what I'm doing. You can't tell me otherwise.
Stafford's gone over every game in the playoffs so far. I know there's a narrative that people think that quarterbacks rush more in the playoffs because it means more and those sorts of things. So maybe that's just indicative of it. But 5.5, slam dunk, lock it in. I'm on board for sure.
Okay, perfect. I did see Burrow to have more than this one's interesting. Burrow to have more than 2.5 rushing attempts. And that's plus 100 at Caesars. I think I read that in an NFL article. So that one to me,
I might have to check. I might have to look into that one more. I kind of want to read the fine print of what they're classifying as a rushing.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I think it was definitely an NFL.com article where I saw it and I was like, that's interesting. Like if you can do that 2.5, but what they consider a rushing attempt and what they don't is I think
the Westgate released something last Thursday on, something like this. I know they had like his first rush attempt over under 2.5 yards. But like from PFF's perspective, we have rush attempts and then we have scrambles, right? And of course, both of those things, turn into rushing yards, but what they're actually classifying as a rushing attempt is something that I'd probably want to look into before really locking it in, I guess.
There we go. All right. Should we get into do you have any more props that aren't crazy props like we're going to get into like missed field goals or like Gatorade
ones?
Do you have any other ones that you're hitting?
I did mention over 6.5 total punts. I do think that's a better approach than taking the under 48.5 total. So I like that one quite a bit. I know Eric Eager has been pushing this one, but first kickoff touchback. Yes. Yeah. There's a pretty popular narrative. 18 of 20 of the last Super Bowls basically have not been a touchback. Pat McAfee came out with some reasoning last year on this. I just think it's probably overvalued, overcorrected in the betting market right now. So at minus 118, I'm resting on the season priors for both kickers, and I think it's going to go be a touchback for sure. So I like that one.
Yeah. I think the only other one, and I had brought this up to you earlier today, was the Kendall Blanton is just something to monitor anytime touchdown, because you can get it right now, like plus 260, plus 280. I mean, it's crazy, but that really is dependent on Higbee, right? And he hasn't, as we're recording this today, he has not practiced all week. So you don't really know what you're getting into. It could be, it's the Super Bowl and he comes out on Sunday. I just think that is one to monitor as something out there, especially with the odds on it and everything like that. Like it presents good value. It's just something to monitor though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the tight end injury situation is weird because I expected Higbee to probably be the one that was going to play. Now it seems like Uzama is maybe more likely to play than him right now. But yeah, obviously that's going to impact a lot of things. I do think like I don't want to see anybody miss the Super Bowl or anything, but if CJ Uzama doesn't play, I do think under on Drew Samples. Props are going to be really good opportunities late in the market and those sorts of things. But yeah, it's obviously still a little bit of injury situations we need to flesh out, but I do like Blanton quite a bit. If Higbee's not able to go to get a touchdown for sure.
Yes.
So
all right. Any other ones? I know you have a missed field goal to occur, and you said
no missed field goal to occur is the option at -124. We do like that one quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, these both kickers have been absolutely terrific. So I don't think it's going to come down to a missed field goal or anything like that. So I like no at -124. I think it's going to be pretty safe bet.
And then first touchdown is pass minus
has to be base rates, coaching base rates, all the other things. These both teams pass quite a bit in the red zone as well. So as long as running back doesn't necessarily break a long run off early in the game, I think first touchdown is a pass -190, pretty safe bet as well. So
that is, I do like that one. And then what else has Eric been pushing this week? He's been pushing another weird one, like the Rams to call
first time out. Yeah, he loves the Sean McVay first time out angle, which I mean, I've been looking for that. I don't know if I've actually found that prop on any books.
I think it was on
my perspective, but I'll have to look.
I thought I saw it on.
It's so hard to track all these bets. I've been it's just paging through everything. I mean, I love it obviously, but yeah, it's all I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. Basically.
I was going to say it's their Super Bowl and it's your Super Bowl. Right. Like this is the day.
Right.
I won't even ask how much we're gonna have.
I did get asked on the radio and all these questions about it. Yeah, how many bets you make and how much, and then how much have you made in one day betting? How much have you lost in one day betting? All stuff.
Did you answer?
This is, of course. I mean, I'm on the radio. I have to answer. So
wow, I won't put you on blast like that here.
Put me on
eventually,
blast. Yeah.
Eventually, maybe like during our off season, where we'll just tease people with like Ben's gonna tell us his whole
degenerate of the degenerate story, right? So there's been it's been the best of times. It's been the worst of times. That's for sure.
How about this? How have you done this season? How's this season treated?
It's been okay. It definitely, honestly, wasn't as good as last year. Honestly, this year was kind of a grind in a lot of ways. I did really well in-game betting. Player props were like okay, I would say, in a lot of ways, but I did get into the same game parlays a lot. This is the first year I've ever bet same game parlays, and I did have quite a bit of success on same game parlays, money line bets, and in-game betting. So that was definitely what carried me. Player props was unfortunately kind of rough from my perspective. So, but there's obviously things you can improve on every off season, and I do think last off season, unfortunately, I didn't have like a ton of opportunities to really improve some of the things that I wanted to. So definitely gonna have a lot more time this year to improve on a lot of that stuff.
That's what I want to do when we get back and we're back in it for next season. In-game betting is just something that seems like you can make a decent amount of money if you do it correctly and if you know what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. And I'm planning on doing like an off-season research type article on in-game betting, just some things to look for, some things that you can take into account based on the pregame spread, like how much it moves in game, if there's ever spots to actually bet on either side of it once it actually does that. So I'm going to look at some of those things in the off season, release an article on pff.com/betting for all the listeners and everybody else. So make sure you subscribe to pff.com.
Yeah, that's our hint for the day. Well, this was awesome. We will be back. We're going to have another one of these before the Super Bowl. We are going to have odds boosts, kind of go into some parlays that we like too. So make sure to look out for that one. That'll probably drop on Saturday, just a little bit closer to the game. So make sure to look out for that. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Get those prop bets in early. That's the best time to do it. Ben Brown, as always, Kendall Ben, thank you so much.